She was called a monster. They wanted her dead, but what if everything they believed was a lie? In a world where shifting into your wolf meant survival, Alara Thorne couldn't shift at all. Branded a curse, accused of stealing children. Today, they'd finally kill her for it. The entire village gathered to watch her burn, including the Alpha, who'd already destroyed her once. But when the most feared king in the realm crashes through with an army at dawn, everything changes. He doesn't see a monster. He sees something else. Something dangerous. Stay until the end to see how this outcast becomes the one thing no one saw coming. Hit that like button and drop your city in the comments below. The morning Alara Thorne was supposed to die, the sky refused to cooperate. No storm, no darkness, just clean, pale sunlight filtering through the pine trees like the world didn't care that they were about to execute someone who'd done nothing wrong. She stood in the center of the village square with her wrists bound behind her back, rough hemp cutting into her skin. Around her, nearly 200 people had gathered, some she'd known her entire life, others from neighboring packs who'd traveled just to watch. Their faces blurred together. Anger, fear, disgust. A few looked uncertain, but none of them spoke up. No one ever did. The pyre had been built 3 days ago. They'd used green wood on purpose. It would burn slower, hotter, make her suffer longer. Someone had even woven wolfsbane into the kindling, as if she could shift, as if she'd ever been able to. Alara kept her chin up, her jaw tight. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Alara Thorne, Alpha Ronan's voice cut through the murmuring crowd like a blade. He stood on the platform beside the pyre, tall and broad-shouldered, every inch the powerful leader his pack worshipped. Handsome, if you ignored the cruelty in his eyes. You stand accused of consorting with dark forces, of stealing children from their families, of practicing forbidden magic. Her laugh came out bitter, sharp enough to make a few people flinch. I didn't steal anyone, she said. Her voice carried farther than she expected, steady, clear. They came to me, and I kept them safe. Lies. Ronan descended the platform steps slowly, deliberately. The crowd parted for him. You manipulated them, twisted their minds with whatever unnatural gift you possess. They were scared, Alara shot back. Lost, hurt. What was I supposed to do? Turn them away? You were supposed to bring them to their rightful packs, to their alphas. He stopped 3 feet in front of her, looking down with that same expression he'd worn 6 years ago when he'd rejected her as his mate in front of everyone. Contempt mixed with something uglier, satisfaction. Instead, you hoarded them like possessions. 5 children from 5 different territories, all missing, all found with you. Because they ran to me! Her control cracked just a little. They were being abused, Ronan, beaten, starved. One of them had cigarette burns on her arms from her own father, and you want me to send her back? Silence fell over the square. For a moment, just a heartbeat, she thought maybe she'd gotten through to someone. Then Ronan backhanded her across the face. The impact snapped her head sideways, sent bright pain exploding through her cheek and jaw. She tasted blood. Her knees buckled, but she didn't fall. Wouldn't fall. You don't get to question how other alphas run their packs, Ronan said quietly, dangerously. You're not even a real wolf, Alara. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. She straightened slowly, working her jaw. When she looked at him again, she made sure he saw exactly what she thought of him. And you've always been a coward who hits women when they tell the truth. His hand shot out, grabbed her throat. Not enough to choke. Just enough to remind her he could. His wolf flashed gold in his eyes. I should have killed you years ago, he whispered. The moment I realized you'd never shift. The moment I knew you were broken. Then why didn't you? He smiled, not a nice smile. Because watching you suffer was more entertaining. He released her with a small shove and turned back to the crowd, raising his voice. This woman is a stain on our community, a curse walking among us in human skin. She has no wolf, no bond to the moon, no place in the natural order. He gestured broadly, playing to his audience. And now she's graduated from being merely useless to being dangerous. She's taken our children, poisoned their minds against their own blood. For that, there is only one punishment. Burn her, someone shouted from the back. Others took up the cry. Burn the witch! Burn the freak! Alara closed her eyes briefly. Not in prayer, she'd stopped praying a long time ago. Just gathering herself. Finding that small, quiet place inside where she kept everything that mattered. The memories of 5 frightened kids who'd felt safe with her for the first time in their lives. The knowledge that she'd done the right thing, even if it cost her everything. When she opened her eyes again, Ronan was already climbing back onto the platform. Any last words? He asked, almost bored. She thought about it. Thought about cursing him. Thought about begging, just to see if anyone's heart might still work. Instead, she said, "Those children loved me more in 3 months than you've been loved in your entire life." His expression darkened. Light it. 2 men stepped forward with torches. The crowd pressed closer, eager for the show. Alara's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her face blank. She wouldn't scream, wouldn't give them that. The first torch touched the kindling. Smoke began to rise, thin and gray, and then the sound came. Low at first, distant, like thunder but rhythmic, purposeful. Horses. A lot of horses. The crowd's bloodlust faltered, heads turning toward the forest road. The drumming grew louder, closer. Through the morning mist, shapes emerged, riders in dark armor, moving in perfect formation. At least 50 of them, maybe more. At their head rode a man who made Ronan look like a child playing dress-up. He was tall, taller than anyone Alara had ever seen, with shoulders that seemed carved from stone beneath midnight black armor etched with silver. His hair was dark, pulled back from a face that could have been handsome if it wasn't so severe. Sharp cheekbones. A jaw that looked like it had never smiled. Eyes the color of winter storms. Alpha King Darius Vorn. Even Alara, isolated as she'd been, knew that name. Everyone did. He ruled the Northern Territories with absolute authority, commanded the largest army in the realm, and had personally killed 3 rival alphas who'd challenged his rule. People whispered that he was half monster, that his wolf was twice the size of a normal shifter's, that he'd once torn a man's throat out with his bare hands for insulting his sister. No one knew why he'd come here. No one had invited him. The column of riders stopped at the edge of the square. The king dismounted in one fluid motion, his boots hitting the ground without a sound. His second-in-command, a scarred man with gray threading his temples, stayed mounted, hand on his sword hilt. Ronan recovered first, stepping forward with his alpha smile firmly in place. "Your Majesty, this is an unexpected honor. If you'd sent word ahead, we would have prepared a proper welcome. Where are the children?" Darius's voice was deep, quiet, and somehow more threatening than if he'd shouted. Ronan blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The 5 missing children from the Eastern Territories. My sources say they were found here 3 weeks ago." Those storm-gray eyes swept the square, missing nothing. "Where are they now?" "They've been returned to their families, of course. We would never—" "You're lying." The words dropped like stones into still water. Ronan's smile tightened. "I assure you, Your Majesty." "I can smell a lie, Alpha Ronan." Darius took 3 steps forward, and suddenly Ronan looked small. "I've spent 2 months tracking those children across 4 territories. Every trail, every report, every witness led here. To your territory. To her." He was looking at Alara now. She stared back, unable to look away. His eyes weren't just gray. They were silver at the edges, almost metallic, unnatural. The eyes of something that lived in the space between human and monster. "She's the criminal," Ronan said quickly. "The child stealer. We were just about to carry out her sentence when you arrived." "Is that so?" Darius walked toward the pyre with slow, measured steps. The crowd parted like water. "And what exactly did she do with these children she supposedly stole?" "Corrupted them, used dark magic to make them loyal to her instead of their rightful packs." "Dark magic." The king stopped in front of Alara, looking down at her with an expression she couldn't read. "Is that what you did?" She met his gaze directly. "I gave them food, clean clothes, a place to sleep where no one hit them. If that's dark magic, then sure." Something flickered across his face, too fast to identify. "Your Majesty," Ronan interjected, "this woman is a known deviant. She has no wolf, no bond to our ways. She's been a problem for years." "Then why is she still alive?" Darius didn't look away from Alara. "If she's been a problem for years, why wait until now to execute her?" Silence. "Because," Alara said quietly, I was useful. I could read and write, keep records, treat wounds when the pack healer was drunk. They needed me just enough to keep me around, but not enough to treat me like a person. And the children? Came to me on their own. Started about 4 months ago, a little girl from the western woods, crying on my doorstep at midnight with bruises on her neck. Then 2 boys a few weeks later, then 2 more. I didn't ask them to come. But when they did, she swallowed hard. I couldn't send them back to the people hurting them. Darius studied her for a long moment. Then, without warning, he reached out and grabbed the rope binding her wrists. It snapped like thread. "What are you doing?" Ronan's voice shot up an octave. The king ignored him. "Show me where you kept them." Alara rubbed her wrists, confused. "What?" "The children. Where did they stay?" "There's nothing to see. Your men already took them. I want to see it anyway." He turned to Ronan, and the temperature in the square seemed to drop 10 degrees. "And you're going to tell your people to put out that fire. Now." For a second, Ronan looked like he might argue. Then he saw the king's hand resting on the pommel of his sword, casual, relaxed, ready, and thought better of it. "Put it out," he ordered. Someone kicked dirt over the smoking kindling. Darius gestured toward the forest path. "Lead the way, Miss Thorne." She didn't move. "Why are you doing this?" "Because something about this situation doesn't add up." He glanced at the crowd, then back at her. "And I've learned to trust my instincts when things don't add up." Alara looked past him at Ronan, whose face had gone purple with suppressed rage, at the crowd, still hungry for violence, at the pyre that had been seconds away from burning her alive. Then she looked at the king again, this stranger who'd appeared from nowhere and stopped her execution for reasons she didn't understand. "It's a 20-minute walk," she said. "Then we should get started." The cabin sat in a clearing about a mile from the village, small and weathered but sturdy. Alara had lived there alone for 6 years, ever since Ronan had kicked her out of the pack house. It wasn't much. 1 main room with a sleeping loft, a tiny kitchen, a fireplace she'd rebuilt herself, but it had been hers. Now it was empty. She stood in the doorway, looking at the space where 5 sleeping mats had been arranged in a careful circle near the hearth. Gone now. The small pile of toys she'd carved from wood scraps. Gone. The shelf where she'd kept their clothes, neatly folded, bare. Darius moved through the room like a predator, taking in every detail. His guards had remained outside at his order. It was just the 2 of them. "Where did you sleep?" he asked. She pointed to the loft. "Up there." "And they slept down here?" "Yes." He crouched near the fireplace, running his fingers over the stones. "You built this." It wasn't a question. "The old one collapsed my first winter here," Alara said. "I taught myself." He stood, moved to the kitchen area. Opened the small cupboard, also empty. "You fed 5 children on what income?" "I worked. Took in mending. Sold herbs from the garden. Sometimes people would pay me to write letters for them." She crossed her arms. "We didn't starve." "But you went hungry." She didn't answer. Darius turned to look at her, his expression unreadable. "Why did you do it? You had to know how it would look. 5 children from different territories, all disappearing and ending up here. You had to know people would come looking." "I thought I'd have more time to figure something out." Alara moved to the window, looking out at the garden she'd planted. Overgrown now. "I kept hoping someone would actually listen, that someone would care that these kids were being hurt. And no one did. The only person who came was Ronan. And he didn't come to help the children. He came because the other alphas were demanding answers, and it made him look bad." She laughed, bitter. "He saw his chance to get rid of me permanently and took it." Silence settled between them. Then, "Tell me about them." "The children." Alara glanced at him, surprised. "Why?" "Because I'm trying to understand what happened here, and I can't do that without knowing who they were." She hesitated. Then, slowly, she walked to the center of the room where the sleeping mats had been. Lily was first, 7 years old. Her father was Beta of the Western Ridge Pack. Important man, respected. At home, he used her as an ashtray. Her voice stayed level, clinical. She showed up here in the middle of the night, barefoot, wearing a nightgown covered in blood from where he'd split her lip. She didn't talk for the first 2 weeks. Darius's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. Then came Marcus and Theo, brothers, 9 and 11. Their mother died and their stepfather didn't want them, kept them locked in a cellar, fed them table scraps. They escaped through a window. She pointed to the space beside where Lily's mat had been. They slept right there, holding hands every night. She moved to the next spot. Emma, 6, sweetest kid you'd ever meet. Her pack was going through a leadership challenge. Lots of violence, instability. She got caught in the middle of a fight between 2 adults and took a claw to the stomach. Nearly died. When she healed, she ran. Last space. And Finn, 12, oldest, smartest. His alpha was grooming him to be a warrior, but Finn didn't want to fight. He wanted to draw, paint. His father beat that weakness out of him every day. Her voice cracked slightly. He still has scars on his back from a whip. She turned to face Darius, and for the first time since he'd arrived, she let him see the full weight of what she was carrying. Those are the children I stole, Your Majesty. Those are the monsters I supposedly corrupted with dark magic. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I gave them a safe place to sleep and adults who didn't hurt them. That's my crime. Darius stood completely still, watching her with those strange, silver-edged eyes. Then he said quietly, "Where are they now?" Ronan sent them back 3 weeks ago, right after his men dragged me to the village lockup. I don't know if they're alive or dead. The king's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air around him, a pressure, building. He sent them back, Darius repeated, to the people who'd been abusing them. Yes, knowing what would likely happen. He didn't care. He just wanted them gone and me dead. Alara's hands clenched into fists. I begged him, told him everything. He laughed and said I should have minded my own business. The pressure in the room intensified, a low subsonic growl that Alara felt in her bones. Your Majesty? She took a step back. Darius closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, the silver was brighter, bleeding into the gray. I need you to answer a question, he said, and I need you to tell me the truth. All right. Did any of those children show signs of illness? Fever, weakness, unusual symptoms? The question caught her off guard. Finn had nightmares, Emma was underweight, but nothing like Finn. He latched onto the name. The 12-year-old. Did he ever complain of pain in his chest, trouble breathing? Alara's stomach dropped. How did you know that? Because that's why I came here. Darius moved toward her, urgent now. 2 months ago, reports started coming in from the Eastern Territories. Children disappearing. At first it seemed random, different packs, different circumstances. But then a pattern emerged. They were all connected to you. I don't understand. Every child that came to you was sick, Alara. Not from abuse, though that was real enough. From something else, something that doesn't have a name yet. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Finn collapsed 4 days ago. The healers can't figure out what's wrong with him. His heart is failing, but there's no physical cause. It's like something is eating him from the inside. Her blood turned to ice. No, that's not possible. He was fine. He's dying. The words were brutal, final. And unless I find out what's causing it, the other 4 will follow. The room spun. Finn. Sweet, gentle Finn, who'd drawn her pictures of flowers and birds. Who'd smiled for the first time in months when she'd told him his art was beautiful. Who'd hugged her so tight the day Ronan's men came that they'd had to pry him off. Where is he? She whispered. The capital. My personal healers are keeping him alive, but it's a losing battle. I need to see him. That's not... He's dying because I couldn't protect him. Her voice rose, sharp with panic. I let them take him. I let them send him back, and now he's dying, and I have to... She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The walls were closing in, and her vision was going dark at the edges, and hands gripped her shoulders, firm, steady. Breathe, Darius ordered. She tried, failed, tried again. Slower, in through your nose. She followed his instructions, dragging air into her lungs. Once, twice. The darkness receded. When she could focus again, she found him watching her with something that might have been concern. If I take you to the capital, he said carefully, you'll be under my authority, my protection, but also my rules. Do you understand? I don't care about rules. I care about Finn. Then we leave within the hour. He released her shoulders, stepped back. Pack whatever you need. Light and fast. Alara looked around the empty cabin. Everything that mattered had already been taken. I'm ready now. They rode hard. Alara had never been on a horse before, never needed to be. But Darius put her on a steady mare and set a pace that ate up miles without being reckless. His guards surrounded them in a protective formation, silent and professional. No one spoke. She was grateful for that. Her mind was too full of Finn, his face, his laugh, the way he'd looked at her with such desperate hope the first time she'd told him he was safe. Dying. The word kept circling like a vulture. They stopped once, briefly, to rest the horses. Darius approached her with a water skin and a piece of dried meat. Eat, he said. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. She took the food mechanically, chewing without tasting. Darius remained standing beside her, scanning the forest with those predator's eyes. Can I ask you something? Alara said after a moment. Go ahead. Why do you care? About the children, I mean. You're the Alpha King. You have territories to run, enemies to fight. Why spend 2 months tracking down 5 missing kids? He was quiet for so long she thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, I had a sister, younger than me. When I was 16 and she was 12, our father, the previous Alpha King, decided she'd make a good political bargaining chip. He wanted to marry her off to a rival Alpha 3 times her age. Alara's breath caught. She begged me to help her, to stop it. His voice was flat, emotionless. The tone of someone who'd buried their feelings so deep they couldn't find them anymore. I tried. I challenged my father's decision. He had me whipped in front of the whole court and locked in the dungeons for a month. And your sister? Killed herself the night before the wedding. The words hung in the air like smoke. I'm sorry, Alara whispered. Don't be. It taught me an important lesson. He turned to look at her, and his eyes were cold, empty. Power without the will to use it is worthless. Authority without action is just noise. I swore that day that I would never stand by and let a child suffer if I had the ability to stop it. Even though you can't save them all. No, but I can save the ones I do find. He handed her the water skin. Finish that. We ride again in 5 minutes. He walked away before she could respond. Alara drank slowly, watching him confer with his second in command, trying to reconcile this man, this king, who'd stopped her execution and ridden for days to save children he'd never met, with the stories she'd heard. The monster. The killer. Maybe, she thought, monsters came in different shapes. Maybe some of them were necessary. They reached the capital at sunset on the second day. Alara had expected something grand, towering walls, elaborate gates, banners flying. What she got was function over form, thick stone walls built for defense, guards stationed every 50 feet, a city that sprawled out from the castle like a living thing. Practical, efficient, built to last. Like its ruler. People stopped to stare as they rode through the streets. Not at Darius. They were used to him. At her. The strange woman riding beside the king, dirty and exhausted and wearing clothes 3 days past, respectable. She kept her eyes forward. The castle was even less decorative than the walls. No gold leaf, no statues, no paintings, just clean lines, solid construction, and the sense that this building could withstand a siege for months. Darius dismounted in the courtyard and immediately strode toward the main doors. Alara scrambled off her horse and followed, her legs unsteady after 2 days of riding. Inside, servants moved with quiet efficiency, bowing as the king passed, but not slowing him down. He took stairs 2 at a time, navigating the corridors without hesitation. Alara half ran to keep up. Where? The healing wing, 3rd floor. They climbed higher. The air grew warmer, tinged with the scent of medicinal herbs and something else, something sick and wrong. Darius pushed through a heavy door into a long room lined with beds. Most were empty. At the far end, surrounded by 3 healers in white robes, lay a small figure. Finn. Alara's heart stopped. He looked so small, so pale. His dark hair stuck to his forehead with sweat, and even from across the room she could see how labored his breathing was. The healers looked up as Darius approached, relief and worry warring on their faces. Your Majesty, one of them, an older woman with silver streaking her black hair, began. We've tried everything, but the deterioration is accelerating. I don't think he has more than a few hours. Has anything changed since I left? The fever spiked this morning. We're keeping him sedated so he doesn't suffer. Alara moved past Darius without thinking, crossing to the bed. Up close, Finn looked even worse. His skin was gray, his lips tinged blue. The strong, gentle boy who'd protected the younger children and made them laugh was barely recognizable. Finn? She touched his hand gently. His eyes flickered open, unfocused, glassy. Lara? The word was barely a whisper. I'm here. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm right here. Cold, he mumbled. So cold. She gripped his hand tighter, trying to warm it. I know, sweetheart. Missed you? I missed you too. His breathing rattled, his eyes closed again. Behind her, the lead healer spoke quietly to Darius. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. We've done everything we can. Alara's vision blurred with tears. This couldn't be happening. Not to Finn. Not when she'd finally found him again. Please, she thought desperately. Please don't take him. Her hands were so warm. She looked down, startled. A faint golden light was emanating from her palms where they touched Finn's hand. Soft at first, then brighter, growing. What the? The healer stepped back. Alara tried to let go, but her hands wouldn't move. The light intensified, spreading up her arms, flowing into Finn. She could feel it now, not just warmth, but something deeper, something that recognized the sickness in him and wanted to fix it. Alara, Darius's voice sharp with command. What are you doing? I don't know. The light flared brilliant gold, so bright she had to close her eyes. Heat flooded through her, not painful, but overwhelming. She felt connected to Finn in a way that defied explanation, could sense the poison spreading through his small body like black veins choking out life. Without thinking, she pushed. The gold light surged, Finn gasped, and then, as suddenly as it started, the light vanished. Alara stumbled backward, exhausted. Strong hands caught her. Darius again. On the bed, Finn's eyes opened, clear, focused. Miss Alara? His voice was stronger. The lead healer rushed forward, hands glowing with diagnostic magic. Her eyes went wide. The fever's breaking. The darkness in his blood. It's gone. She looked up at Alara, stunned. What did you do? Alara swayed, the room tilting. I healed him, she whispered. Then everything went black. Alara woke to unfamiliar ceiling beams and the smell of lavender. For a disorienting moment, she thought she was back in her cabin. Then memory crashed back, Finn dying, the golden light, her hands burning with something she couldn't name or control. She sat up too fast. The room spun. Easy. A woman's voice, calm and professional. The silver-haired healer from before appeared at her bedside, pressing a cup of water into her hands. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Your body needs time to recover. Alara drank, her throat raw. Finn? Alive. Awake. Asking for you, actually. The healer, her name tag read Mira, studied her with sharp, assessing eyes. That was quite the display. I didn't mean to. I don't even know what I did. You healed him, completely. Whatever poison was destroying him from the inside is gone. Mira sat on the edge of the bed, her expression unreadable. In 30 years of practice, I've never seen anything like it. Healing magic exists, of course, but it's subtle, gradual. What you did was... She paused, searching for the word. Aggressive, like you reached into his body and physically tore the sickness out. Alara looked down at her hands. They appeared normal now, no glow, no warmth, just her same scarred, calloused palms. I've never been able to do that before, she said quietly. I swear I didn't even know I could. Have you ever tried? No, I mean, I've always been good at knowing when someone was hurt. Could sense infections before they showed symptoms, things like that. But actual healing? She shook her head. That's impossible. I don't have a wolf. No connection to the moon. No magic. And yet, Mira gestured around them. Here we are. Before Alara could respond, the door opened. Darius filled the frame, still in his riding clothes, looking like he hadn't slept. "You're awake," he said. "So I'm told." His eyes flicked to Mira. "Give us the room." The healer rose without argument, though Alara caught the worried glance she threw back before closing the door behind her. Darius remained standing, arms crossed. The silence stretched between them like a rope pulled taut. Finally, Alara said, "Is this the part where you lock me up for being a dangerous freak?" "That depends." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "Are you a dangerous freak?" "I don't know what I am." "Not good enough." He stopped at the foot of the bed, his expression hard. "I need answers, Alara, real ones. Because what happened in that healing room, that kind of power doesn't just appear from nowhere. I told you, I've never done anything like that before." "But you felt it, haven't you? The potential." His gaze pinned her in place. "When those children came to you, when you took them in, you said they were drawn to you. What if it wasn't coincidence? What if they could sense something in you that others couldn't?" The question hit too close to something she'd wondered herself, late at night when she couldn't sleep. "I'm not a predator," she said, defensive. "I didn't lure them." "I'm not saying you did. I'm saying maybe they recognize safety because you have the ability to provide it. Literally." He pulled up a chair, sat backward on it with his arms resting on the backrest. Less intimidating, but no less intense. Healing magic of that magnitude is rare, ancient, the kind of power that gets people killed, or worse, used as weapons. "I'm not a weapon." "No, but others will try to make you one once word gets out." The implication settled over her like ice water. "How many people saw?" "3 healers. My second in command. 4 guards stationed outside the room." His jaw tightened. "I've ordered them to silence, but information has a way of spreading, especially information this valuable." "What are you going to do with me?" The question hung in the air. Darius leaned forward slightly, his storm-gray eyes searching her face. "That depends on what you want. I want to see Finn. I want to make sure the other children are safe. And then I want to go home." She laughed bitterly. "Except I don't have a home anymore, do I?" "No, you don't." He said it matter-of-factly, without cruelty. "Ronan has already declared you an enemy of his pack. Returning would be suicide. So I'm trapped here. You're protected here. There's a difference." He stood, moving to the window. Outside, the capital was waking, people moving through streets, smoke rising from chimneys. Normal life, continuing. "I can offer you sanctuary, a place to stay, protection from those who'd use you. In exchange, I need you to help me figure out what's happening to these children." "You think there are more?" "I know there are." He turned back to her. "Finn wasn't the only one who got sick. Reports are coming in from 3 other territories, children showing the same symptoms. Fever, weakness, that black poison in their blood. 2 have already died." Alara's breath caught. "Emma? Marcus? Theo? Lily?" "Not yet, but I have people tracking them down as we speak. If we can get to them in time, if you can heal them the way you healed Finn." He let the sentence trail off. "You want to use me as a cure. I want to save children's lives. If that means you using a gift you clearly possess, then yes." His expression hardened. "Unless you'd prefer to let them die to prove a point about your freedom." The words were calculated, sharp, designed to provoke. They worked. "That's not fair," Alara snapped. "You know I'd never—" "Then we have an agreement." He headed for the door. "Rest for another hour, then I'm taking you to see Finn. After that, we have work to do." He was gone before she could argue. Finn was sitting up in bed when Alara entered. Color returned to his cheeks. The moment he saw her, his whole face lit up. "Miss Alara!" She crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled him into a careful hug, mindful of his still recovering body. He clung to her like she might disappear. "I thought I'd never see you again," he mumbled into her shoulder. "I'm here. I'm right here." She pulled back to look at him properly. "How do you feel?" "Weird? Good, but weird. Like I was underwater for a long time and suddenly I can breathe again." His dark eyes were curious, searching. "The healer said you saved me. That you have magic." "I don't know what I have, honestly. But you did save me. I couldn't let you die, Finn. Not after everything." He smiled, small and fragile, but real. The king said he's looking for the others. Marcus, Theo, Emma, and Lily. Do you think they're sick too? I don't know, but we're going to find them. She squeezed his hand. I promise. A knock at the door interrupted them. Darius entered, followed by his second-in-command, the scarred man from the ride. Up close, he looked even more dangerous, with a nose that had been broken multiple times and eyes that missed nothing. Finn, Darius said, his voice surprisingly gentle. I'm glad to see you're recovering. Thank you for bringing Miss Alara, Your Majesty. Thank her. She's the one who pulled you back. He gestured to the other man. This is Commander Garrett. He's been coordinating the search for your friends. Garrett stepped forward, pulling a small notebook from his pocket. I need to ask you some questions, son, about the time before you got sick. Can you do that? Finn glanced at Alara. She nodded encouragingly. Okay, he said. When did you first start feeling ill? Maybe 2 weeks after I got sent back. It started with nightmares, really bad ones. I'd wake up screaming and my chest would hurt. What were the nightmares about? Finn's face went pale. A woman. She had long black hair and her eyes were wrong, like they were too dark, empty. She'd stand at the foot of my bed and whisper things. What kind of things? That I was special, that she was coming for me, that I should... He swallowed hard. That I should come find her. Garrett and Darius exchanged a look. Did you tell anyone about these dreams? Garrett asked. My father. He said I was being weak, that I needed to toughen up. Alara's hands clenched into fists, but she kept quiet. When did the physical symptoms start? Garrett continued. About a week after the nightmares. I got really tired, couldn't eat. Then the fever came, and Finn touched his chest. It felt like something was squeezing my heart, like hands inside me, crushing it. Did anyone else in your pack get sick? No, just me. Garrett made notes, his expression grim. Thank you, Finn. That's very helpful. Commander, Alara interjected, you said 2 other children have already died. Did they report similar symptoms? The nightmares? The woman? Garrett looked to Darius, who nodded permission. Yes, Garrett said. Both of them described identical dreams in the days before they fell ill. A dark-haired woman, empty eyes, calling to them. Their families thought it was just fear or trauma. His jaw tightened. By the time the physical symptoms appeared, it was too late. This isn't a disease, Alara said slowly, pieces clicking together. Someone is doing this to them, targeting them specifically. That's our working theory, Darius confirmed. The question is why? What connects these children beyond their time with you? Silence fell as they all considered. Then Finn said very quietly, we were all running from something. All of us who came to Miss Alara, we weren't just hurt, we were being hunted. Hunted? Alara turned to him. What do you mean? I heard my father talking to someone before I ran. About me. About how I was showing signs and needed to be dealt with before I became a problem. His voice shook. I didn't understand what they meant, but I knew it was bad. That's why I ran to you. Darius moved closer. Finn, this is important. Did you recognize the person your father was talking to? No, but their voice was weird, soft and hissy, like a snake. Male or female? I couldn't tell. Garrett cursed under his breath. What? Alara demanded. What does that mean? It means we're dealing with something old, Darius said. Something powerful enough to hide its true nature even from a child's perception. You think it's the same person from the nightmares, the woman. I think whoever is behind this has been active for much longer than 2 months. I think they've been watching these children, waiting for them to manifest whatever trait or ability makes them special. His expression was stone. And I think you, Alara, inadvertently gathered them all in one place, made them easier to find. The guilt hit like a physical blow. I led them right to the children. You didn't know. That doesn't matter. Emma, Marcus, Theo, Lily, if they're sick, if they're dying, it's because of me. Her voice rose. I should have hidden them better, should have... Alara, Finn grabbed her hand. You saved us. You were the only person who even tried. This isn't your fault. But it felt like her fault. Darius cleared his throat. Garrett, How long until we have locations on the other 4? Teams are en route now. Should have confirmation within 12 hours. Make it 6, and I want double guards on Finn until we know what we're dealing with. Already done, sir. Good. Darius turned to Alara. You should get some food. Rest while you can. Once we locate the others, we're moving fast. She wanted to argue, to demand she be included in every decision. But exhaustion was catching up with her, and she knew he was right. Fine, she said, but I'm coming with you when you go get them. I wouldn't have it any other way. What? The room Darius assigned her was 10 times nicer than anywhere she'd ever stayed. Soft bed, clean linens, a window overlooking the courtyard. It felt like a trap. Too much comfort after years of barely scraping by. She tried to sleep, but couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Finn's gray face, heard the other children calling for her. Around midnight, a knock came. She opened the door to find Mira holding a tray of food. You didn't come to dinner, the healer said. Figured you'd need this. Alara stepped aside to let her in. Thank you. Mira set the tray on the small table and studied her critically. You look terrible. That's comforting. I'm a healer, not a diplomat. She poured tea from a pot, handed Alara a cup. Drink. It'll help you sleep. I don't need... It wasn't a suggestion. Alara drank. The tea was bitter, with an herbal undertone she didn't recognize. Mira settled into the chair across from her. Can I ask you something off the record? I guess. When you healed Finn, what did it feel like? Alara considered. Like I could see the sickness in him. Not with my eyes, but with something else. And once I saw it, I knew I could grab it, pull it out. She looked down at her hands. It was terrifying, but also right somehow, like my body knew what to do even if my mind didn't. And you've never felt anything like that before? Not even slightly? No. I mean, I've always been sensitive to when people were hurt. I'd get this ache in my chest if someone near me was in pain, but I thought everyone felt that. Mira shook her head slowly. That's empathic resonance. Rare, but not unheard of. What you did today was something entirely different. What do you think it is? Honestly, I have no idea, but if I had to guess, she hesitated. There are old stories, legends about healers who could do more than mend wounds, who could reach into a person's very essence and rewrite what was broken. They called them life weavers. That sounds made up. Most legends are based on something real. Mira leaned forward. The life weavers were supposedly wiped out centuries ago because their power was too dangerous, too tempting for those who wanted to control life and death. If even one still existed, or if someone with that bloodline suddenly manifested, people would want to use them, or kill them before they became a threat. The tea suddenly tasted like ash. You're saying I'm in danger. I'm saying you've always been in danger. You just didn't know it. Mira stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be brutal. She left before Alara could ask what she meant. The call came at dawn. Alara was jolted awake by pounding on her door. She opened it to find Garrett already in full armor. We found them, he said without preamble. All 4. They're alive, but barely. His Majesty wants you suited up and ready to ride in 20 minutes. She was dressed in 15. The courtyard was chaos, horses being saddled, supplies loaded, warriors checking weapons. Darius stood at the center of it all, issuing orders in that quiet, commanding voice that made people move faster. He spotted Alara and beckoned her over. The children are being held in an old fort 3 days' ride east, he said, strapping on his sword. Abandoned for years, but someone's been using it. My scouts report armed guards, magical wards, the whole setup. Held? Alara's stomach dropped. You mean they're prisoners? Looks that way. Whoever is behind this isn't hiding anymore. Then it's a trap. Undoubtedly. He swung into his saddle. Which is why we're bringing 50 of my best fighters and a mage unit. You'll stay in the center of the formation, protected. Like hell I will. If those children are dying, you can't heal them if you're dead, Alara. His tone left no room for argument. We do this my way, or you stay here. Choose. She wanted to fight him, wanted to scream that she'd spent her whole life following other people's rules, and look where it got her. But she looked at the grim faces of the soldiers around them, at Garrett checking his crossbow, at the very real possibility that they were riding into a battle. "Fine," she said. "But if we get there and those kids need me, I'm not waiting for your permission. I wouldn't expect you to." They rode out as the sun crested the eastern hills. The journey was tense and silent. Darius kept scouts ranging ahead and behind, watching for ambush. They saw no one. That was worse, somehow, like the whole world was holding its breath. On the second night, camped in a dense forest, Alara sat by the fire, unable to sleep. Again. Darius appeared from the darkness and settled beside her without asking. "You should rest," he said. "So should you." "I don't sleep much." They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching the flames. Then Alara asked, "Why are you really doing this? And don't tell me it's just about your sister. There's something else." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "When I took the throne," he finally said, "I inherited a kingdom built on violence and fear. My father ruled through intimidation. He believed strength meant dominance, and dominance meant crushing anyone who showed weakness." Darius stared into the fire. "I watched him destroy good people because they dared to question him. Watched him tear families apart to maintain control. By the time he died, half the realm was one bad winter away from open rebellion." "But you changed things." "I tried. I'm still trying." He glanced at her. "But change is slow, and there are those who prefer the old ways, who see kindness as weakness and mercy as foolishness. If I can't prove that protecting the vulnerable makes us stronger, not weaker, then everything I've built will crumble the moment I'm gone." Alara understood then. This wasn't just about saving children. It was about saving his kingdom's soul. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I think you're doing better than you believe." He looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression, something almost vulnerable. Coming from a woman who nearly died protecting children who weren't even hers, I'll take that as a compliment. Before she could respond, a shout came from the perimeter. Garrett appeared, running. "Your Majesty, the scouts are back. You need to hear this." They followed him to where two scouts stood, breathless and pale. "Report," Darius ordered. The lead scout, a wiry woman with short-cropped hair, spoke rapidly. "The fort is occupied, sir. At least 30 combatants, maybe more. But that's not the worst part." "What is?" "The children. We got close enough to see them." Her voice shook. "They're in cages, Your Majesty, out in the open courtyard, and they're glowing." Alara's blood turned to ice. "Glowing?" "Same light that came from you when you healed the boy. Golden. But wrong somehow, like it's being pulled out of them instead of given." Darius's expression went deadly. "How long do they have?" "Based on how Finn deteriorated, hours, maybe less." "Then we move now." He turned to Garrett. "Rouse the camp. We ride in 10 minutes. "Sir, it's the middle of the night. Those are children dying in cages. We're not waiting for daylight." His voice cut like steel. 10 minutes, Commander. Move." The camp exploded into organized chaos. Alara grabbed Darius's arm. "If someone is draining their power, I need to get to them fast. The moment we breach those walls..." "I know. You'll have an escort straight to the courtyard." I don't need an escort. I need speed." "Alara." He gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I am not losing you in there. Do you understand? You're too important. To the children. To me." The words hung between them. Before either could process what he'd just said, Garrett called, "We're ready, sir." Darius released her, his expression shuddering closed again. "Stay close. Do exactly what I tell you, and if something goes wrong, if I give the order to retreat, you run. No arguments. Darius, promise me." She looked into those storm-gray eyes and saw something she hadn't expected. Fear. Not for himself, for her. "I promise," she lied. They mounted and rode into the darkness, racing against death itself. The fort appeared like a black wound against the night sky, walls half crumbled but still formidable, torches burning at intervals. And in the center courtyard, visible even from a distance, 4 small figures in iron cages bathed in sickly golden light. Emma, Marcus, Theo, Lily, all of them barely moving. "Positions," Darius ordered quietly. His fighters spread out surrounding the fort. Mages moved to the front, hands already glowing with power. Then, from the walls, a voice rang out. Alpha King Darius Vorn, how kind of you to bring exactly what I needed. A figure appeared atop the main gate. Tall, wrapped in dark robes, face hidden by a deep hood. Even from this distance, Elara could feel the wrongness radiating from them. Release the children, Darius called back, and I'll consider letting you live. Laughter echoed across the field. Oh, I don't think so. You see, these little ones are almost ripe. Their power is nearly ready to harvest. And once I have it... The figure gestured, and the cages flared brighter. The children screamed. Elara didn't think. She kicked her horse forward, breaking from the formation. Elara! Darius's roar followed her, but she was already moving. She hit the gate at full speed. It exploded inward, not from her impact, but from the golden light that erupted from her hands when she touched it. Guards rushed her. She threw her hands out instinctively, and light lashed out like whips, sending them flying. What was happening to her? No time to wonder. She ran for the cages, power surging through her veins like liquid fire. Behind her, she heard Darius and his fighters pouring through the breach, engaging the defenders. Steel rang against steel. Magic crackled. The cages were padlocked. Elara grabbed the first lock and it melted in her grip. Emma fell into her arms, barely conscious. I've got you, Elara gasped. I've got you. She laid Emma down and moved to the next cage. Marcus, then Theo, then Lily. All 4 children were dying, their life force being drained by whatever dark magic held them. Elara knelt in the center, put her hands on the ground, and reached. The power that had been simmering in her chest since Finn exploded outward in a wave of pure golden light. It connected with all 4 children at once, wrapping around them, searching out the poison. There. Dark tendrils like parasitic roots dug into their hearts, feeding on them. Elara grabbed those roots with her mind and pulled. The children convulsed. The darkness fought back, trying to maintain its hold. She pulled harder. No! The robed figure dropped into the courtyard faster than humanly possible. They threw off their hood, revealing a woman with dead black eyes and a face too perfect to be real. That power belongs to me, the woman shrieked. She raised her hands and dark energy lanced toward Elara. It never connected. Darius appeared between them, his sword flashing. The dark energy splashed against his blade and dissipated. His eyes were glowing now too, not gold like Elara's, but silver white. Wolf's eyes. You want her? His voice was barely human. You go through me first. The woman smiled. With pleasure. They clashed in an explosion of light and shadow. Elara couldn't watch. She had to focus, had to finish this. She found the source of the dark roots, a ritual circle carved into the stones beneath the cages. Someone had planned this. Prepared. With the last of her strength, she poured her light into the circle, drowning it, burning it away. The dark tendrils screamed as they died. The children gasped, color flooding back into their faces. And Elara collapsed, her power spent. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Darius driving his sword through the woman's chest, his face terrible and beautiful and utterly merciless. Then nothing. The darkness that swallowed Elara wasn't peaceful. She floated in a void where voices whispered, some familiar, most not. They spoke in languages she shouldn't understand but somehow did. Ancient words, hungry words. She's waking. The vessel is incomplete. More time. We need more time. Then pain ripped through her like lightning, and she was gasping, choking, clawing her way back to consciousness. She opened her eyes to firelight and rough stone walls. Not the healing ward. Somewhere else. Somewhere that smelled of blood and smoke. Easy. Mira's face appeared above her, haggard and strained. Don't try to move yet. Elara's whole body felt like it had been turned inside out and wrung dry. The children? Alive. Recovering. Mira pressed a damp cloth to Elara's forehead. You pulled them back from the edge. All 4 of them. The woman? Dead. Darius put his sword through her heart. Mira's expression darkened. Or what passed for a heart. When she died, her body turned to ash. Nothing left but scorched stone and a smell like rotting flowers. Elara tried to sit up. The room spun violently. I said don't move, Mira snapped, pushing her back down. You burned through more power in 10 minutes than most healers use in a year. Your body needs time to recover. Where are we? The fort. What's left of it. Darius secured the perimeter and set up a field camp. We're moving the children at first light, but you weren't stable enough to transport. How long have I been out? 18 hours. Alara's stomach dropped. 18? You nearly died, Alara. Your heart stopped twice. If Darius hadn't... Mira trailed off, something complicated crossing her face. Let's just say he was very motivated to keep you alive. Before Alara could ask what that meant, the door crashed open. Darius strode in like a storm given human form. He was filthy, blood and dirt caked on his armor, a cut above his left eye that hadn't been tended. He looked like he'd been fighting for days instead of hours. His eyes found Alara, and something in his expression cracked. You're awake. His voice was rough, exhausted. Apparently, she tried for levity. Failed. Mira says I died. Twice. He crossed to her in 3 strides, looming over the cot. Your heart stopped, and you stopped breathing, and I had to... He cut himself off, jaw clenching. You promised me you'd run if things went wrong. I lied. Clearly. The children are alive because you're a reckless, stubborn woman with a death wish. His hands were shaking, actually shaking. Do you have any idea what it was like watching you collapse? Watching the light go out of you? Alara stared at him. She'd seen him command armies, face down enemies, kill without hesitation. She'd never seen him scared. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Don't. He turned away, running a hand through his tangled hair. Don't apologize for saving them. Just next time warn me before you decide to sacrifice yourself. There won't be a next time. He laughed, bitter and sharp. You really believe that? The question hung heavy in the air. Mira cleared her throat. I'll give you 2 some privacy. Alara, don't let him bully you into getting up. You need at least another 12 hours of rest. She shot Darius a warning look and left. Silence settled between them. Darius finally pulled up a stool and sat, looking more exhausted than Alara had ever seen him. We found something, he said, in the woman's chambers. Documents, plans. His expression was grim. This wasn't random, Alara. She's been hunting children with latent abilities for at least 5 years, building a network, gathering power. Why? To create a weapon, or maybe to become one. The documents weren't entirely clear. He pulled a folded paper from his belt, handed it to her. But your name is in there, multiple times. Alara's hands trembled as she unfolded the page. The writing was cramped, frantic. The Thorn Girl, bloodline confirmed, Lifeweaver descendant, possibly last of her kind. Power dormant but awakening. Must be claimed before she realizes what she is. Children will draw her out. She cannot resist the pull to protect. This is insane, Alara whispered. I'm nobody. I'm just... The last of an extinct bloodline of healers powerful enough to rewrite life and death. Darius leaned forward. That woman wasn't working alone. These documents reference someone called the Collector. Someone who's been orchestrating everything. The Collector? We don't know who or what they are, but according to this, he gestured at the paper, they've been searching for you specifically for years, and now that you've revealed yourself, the implication settled like lead in Alara's stomach. I'm the target, she said. Everything, the children getting sick, the trap at the fort, it was all to force me to use my power, to confirm what I was. And now they know. His eyes met hers, intense. Which means staying in one place is suicide. We need to move, keep you somewhere defensible until we can figure out who's behind this. What about the children? They're coming with us. All 5 of them. His jaw set. I'm not leaving them vulnerable. Darius, you can't just... I can and I will. He stood, pacing like a caged animal. Those children were targeted because they have abilities. Marcus can sense emotions, true empathy. Theo has precognitive dreams. Emma can communicate with animals. Lily can see the truth behind lies. And Finn... He paused. Finn can manipulate metal without touching it. Alara's breath caught. That's why their families wanted them gone. They were afraid. Terrified. Easier to abuse them into silence than accept they were different. His expression turned savage. Some even tried to kill them before the abilities fully manifested. That's what Finn overheard, his father planning his murder. Rage burned through Alara's exhaustion. Where are their families now? Under investigation. The ones who attempted murder will face execution. The others, he shrugged, depends on what my judges find. You are really going to kill them, the parents? Would you prefer I send the children back? His voice was cold. Because that's the alternative. Let abusers continue abusing because they happen to share blood with their victims. No, she swallowed hard. I've spent my whole life watching people get away with cruelty because they had power and their victims didn't. I suppose I'm not used to someone actually doing something about it. Darius's expression softened slightly. Get used to it. In my kingdom, power comes with accountability. He moved back to her bedside. Which brings me to my next point. I want you to stay, permanently. Stay? As my court healer, with full protection, resources, a place for the children. You'd be safe, they'd be safe, and we could work together to find this collector before they make another move. It was a generous offer. More than generous. It was also a cage. I appreciate... Don't. He held up a hand. Don't give me an answer now. Think about it. Rest. We'll talk more when you're stronger. He left before she could argue. Alara stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. Court healer. Protected. Safe. Controlled. She'd spent her entire life being told what she could and couldn't do, where she could and couldn't go. The idea of trading one set of chains for another, even comfortable, well-meaning chains, made her chest tight. But the alternative was what? Running? Hiding? The collector would find her eventually, and when they did, she'd be alone. Unless she found them first. The thought sparked something fierce in her chest. She sat up slowly, fighting through the dizziness. Her body screamed protest, but she gritted her teeth and swung her legs off the cot. Standing took 3 tries. Walking was worse. But she managed to stumble to the door, crack it open. 2 guards stood outside, Darius's men. They straightened when they saw her. Miss Thorne, you should be resting. I need to see the children, now. They exchanged glances. His Majesty's orders were clear. You're not to exert yourself. Then carry me if you have to. But I'm seeing those kids. She swayed slightly, grabbed the doorframe for support. Please. The older guard sighed. I'll get a chair. 5 minutes later, they wheeled her into a larger chamber where all 5 children were gathered. They looked up as she entered, and the relief on their faces made her eyes burn. Miss Alara. Emma launched herself forward, nearly knocking over the chair in her enthusiasm. The others surrounded her, talking over each other, touching her arm, her hand, reassuring themselves she was real. We thought you were dead, Lily said, her voice small. I'm okay. I'm right here. Alara hugged them as best she could, one-armed because her right side still wasn't working properly. How are you all feeling? Tired, Marcus admitted. But better. The healers said the poison is completely gone. They also said you almost died saving us, Theo added. His eyes, old for an 11-year-old, studied her carefully. Why would you do that? Because you matter, Alara said simply. Because you deserved someone willing to fight for you. The king fought too, Finn said. He was scary, like really scary. His eyes went all silver and he moved so fast. There was awe in his voice. He killed that woman without even hesitating. She was trying to kill you, Alara pointed out. Of course he didn't hesitate. Yeah, but... Finn hesitated. He told us afterward, when you were unconscious, that anyone who tried to hurt us would answer to him personally, that we were under his protection now. Forever. Emma nodded enthusiastically. He said, we're pack. That pack protects each other no matter what. Alara's throat tightened. Darius had claimed them. All of them. In the shifter world, that meant something profound. A bond deeper than law, stronger than blood. He'd made them his. What about you? Lily asked, startling Alara from her thoughts. Are you pack too? I don't know. The king thinks you are. This from Marcus, his empathic gift probably picking up things Darius thought he was hiding. He feels different when you're around, calmer, but also more intense, like you make him more himself. Marcus, Alara warned, you shouldn't use your ability to spy on people's feelings. I'm not spying, it's loud, especially with him. The boy shrugged. He cares about you, Like, a lot. Before Alara could process that, footsteps approached. Garrett entered, his expression troubled. Miss Thorne, you should be resting. So everyone keeps telling me. I'm serious. His Majesty will have my head if... He stopped, seemed to make a decision. Actually, I need to talk to you, alone. The children protested, but Garrett was firm. They filed out reluctantly, throwing worried glances back at Alara. Once they were gone, Garrett pulled up a stool and sat heavily. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Another one? News of what happened here is spreading, fast. By tomorrow, every alpha in the Eastern Territories will know about the attack, the children, and your... He gestured vaguely at her. Abilities. That was inevitable. True, but what wasn't inevitable is the spin some of them are putting on it. His jaw tightened. There's a faction, mostly older alphas who resent Darius's reforms, who are claiming you're dangerous, that you manipulated the king into protecting you, that you're using dark magic to control children. Alara's laugh was incredulous. That's insane. Darius doesn't get manipulated by anyone, and I'm clearly not controlling the children. Doesn't matter. Truth is irrelevant when people are scared. Garrett leaned forward. They're calling for a tribunal. Formal charges of witchcraft and corruption of minors. Let them. I'll defend myself. You don't understand. A tribunal means you'd be held in custody pending trial, separated from the children, from Darius's protection. And the burden of proof would be on you to prove you're not a threat. His expression was grave. People with your kind of power rarely survive tribunals, Miss Thorne. The deck is too heavily stacked. Then what am I supposed to do? Run, now, before they can formalize the charges. Alara stared at him. Darius sent you to tell me this. No, he'd be furious if he knew I was here. Garrett's scarred face was earnest. But I've served him for 15 years. I know when he's about to make a choice that'll destroy him. If he has to choose between you and political stability, between protecting you and keeping his kingdom from civil war, it'll tear him apart. You think he'd let them take me? I think he'd fight them with everything he has. And I think it would cost him the throne. Maybe his life. Garrett stood. I'm not asking you to abandon the children. Darius will protect them regardless. But you're the catalyst, the spark that could burn everything down. So I'm supposed to just disappear? Leave them? I'm saying you need to decide what's more important, staying and risking everything Darius has built, or leaving and giving him a chance to salvage this before it explodes. He left her alone with that choice. Alara sat in the silence, her mind churning. She could run, take nothing, slip away in the night before dawn. The children would be safe with Darius, he'd made that clear, and she'd be free. Hunted, yes, but free. Or she could stay, fight the tribunal. Risk not just her own life, but Darius's throne, the children's safety, everything. Neither option felt right. Neither option felt survivable. She was still wrestling with it when Mira returned, carrying a tray of food and medicine. You look like hell, the healer observed. I feel worse. Good. Means you're alive. Mira set the tray down, began checking Alara's pulse. Your heart rate is still elevated. You need to... Mira! Alara grabbed her wrist. Tell me the truth. If I stay, will they kill me? The healer's expression shuddered. I can't answer that. That's an answer in itself. Mira sighed, sitting on the edge of the cot. I've seen what happens when people with real power emerge. The established order doesn't handle it well. They either destroy the threat or find a way to control it. She met Alara's eyes. You're too powerful to control and too visible to ignore, so yes, if they get their hands on you legally, through a tribunal, they'll find a way to justify killing you. What about Darius? He'll fight them, and he might even win. But the cost? She shook her head. The kingdom is already fractured. This could shatter it completely. Alara closed her eyes. Why does it always come down to this? Why do I have to be the one who ruins everything just by existing? You don't ruin anything. You threaten the people who profit from keeping things broken. Mira's voice was fierce. There's a difference. Doesn't feel different. Before Mira could respond, shouts erupted outside. Then screaming. Both women froze. Mira moved to the window, looked out, and went pale. We need to move. Now. What's happening? They're here. Who? Everyone. Mira hauled Alara to her feet and half-dragged her to the door. Outside, chaos had erupted. Darius's soldiers were scrambling, weapons drawn. Through the confusion, Alara could see what had caused the panic. The road leading to the fort was packed with people, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Shifters from every nearby pack, armed and angry, forming a massive crowd that pressed against Darius's defensive lines. At their head stood a group of alphas, 12 of them, their power radiating like heat waves. And at the center of that group stood Ronan. Of course it was Ronan. Darius appeared from the command tent, already in full armor. He strode toward the defensive line, radiating controlled fury. One of the alphas stepped forward, a broad man with iron-gray hair and a cruel mouth. "Alpha King Darius," he called out. "We've come for the witch." "There is no witch here," Darius replied, his voice carrying across the field. "Only a healer who saved children's lives. A healer who uses forbidden magic, who corrupted minors and consorts with dark forces." Ronan's voice was smug. "We have witnesses, testimony, evidence of her crimes. Evidence you fabricated. Prove it." The gray-haired alpha smiled. "Or hand her over for trial and let a proper tribunal decide her fate. She stays under my protection. Then you're harboring a criminal, which makes you complicit in her crimes." The alpha's smile widened. "Under the Continental Accords, we have the right to demand her extradition. Refuse, and you're in violation of treaty law." Darius's hands clenched into fists. Alara understood the trap immediately. The Continental Accords governed relations between territories. Refusing them meant invalidating treaties, which could mean war, and these alphas knew it. They'd backed Darius into a corner. "This is illegal seizure," Darius said coldly. "You have no authority. We have 12 alphas representing 8 territories. That's enough authority to call a tribunal under Article 7. The gray-haired man pulled out a scroll. "Sign this, agreeing to her extradition for trial, or we'll be forced to take her by force. And then there won't be any legalities left to hide behind." The crowd behind them roared approval. Darius stood perfectly still, but Alara could see the calculation in his eyes. He was outnumbered, outmaneuvered. Fighting would mean civil war. And they both knew it. She made her decision. Stepping away from Mira's supporting arm, Alara walked forward on unsteady legs. Soldiers tried to stop her, but she pushed past them. "Alara, don't—" Darius reached for her. She avoided his hand. "It's okay." "No, it's not. Get back inside. They're going to tear your kingdom apart over me." She looked at him, really looked at him, memorizing the sharp lines of his face, the storm in his eyes. "I won't let that happen. Alara, you've done enough. Saved the children, gave them a home. That's what matters." She turned to face the assembled alphas, drawing herself up despite her exhaustion. "I'll submit to your tribunal, on one condition." The gray-haired alpha looked amused. "You're in no position to make conditions. The children stay here, under the king's protection. They're not part of this. The children are evidence. The children are victims," Alara cut him off. "And if you try to use them in your political games, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of monsters their supposed protectors really are." Ronan stepped forward, his expression vicious. "Still acting like you have power, Alara? You're done. Finished. You should have burned when you had the chance." She met his eyes and smiled, sharp and dangerous. "And you should have stayed in your territory, Ronan, because once this tribunal is over, and I'm cleared, and I will be cleared, I'm coming for you personally." His hand shot out to grab her. Darius moved faster. He had Ronan by the throat, lifted off the ground, before anyone could blink. His eyes were full silver now, his wolf barely leashed. "Touch her," Darius said softly, dangerously, "and I will rip your spine out through your mouth and use it to beat your corpse." The entire field went silent. "Your Majesty," the gray-haired alpha said carefully, "this isn't helping your case." Darius dropped Ronan, who collapsed gasping. "She's right about the children. They stay. Non-negotiable." "Fine, the children stay." The alpha gestured, and 2 men moved forward with iron manacles. "But she comes with us. Now." Alara held out her wrists. The iron was cold and heavy. The moment it touched her skin, she felt her power dampened. Not gone, but muffled. These weren't ordinary manacles. Spelled iron, the gray-haired Alpha said. Can't have you healing your way out of custody. Darius looked like he wanted to murder everyone present. How long until the tribunal convenes, he demanded. 3 days, capital city, neutral ground. The Alpha gestured to his men. We'll see you there, Your Majesty, assuming you still want to attend. I'll be there. The promise in his voice was absolute. And if anything happens to her before then, if she's harmed in any way, there won't be a treaty or law left standing when I'm done with you. The Alphas led Alara away. She didn't look back. Couldn't. If she saw Darius's face, saw the children watching from the fort, she'd break. And she couldn't afford to break. Not yet. They put her in a wagon, barred and warded. As it pulled away, she heard Finn shouting her name, heard Emma crying, heard Darius roar something that might have been her name or might have been a declaration of war. The wagon rumbled down the road, surrounded by hostile guards. Alara sat in the darkness, iron biting her wrists, and let herself feel the fear she'd been suppressing. 3 days. 3 days to figure out how to survive a rigged trial designed to end with her execution. 3 days to find proof of the collector's existence and the conspiracy against the children. 3 days to somehow become powerful enough to face down 12 alphas and an entire system determined to see her dead. She'd faced worse odds. Hadn't she? The wagon hit a rut, jolting her painfully against the bars. Through the small barred window, she could see storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Lightning flickered in the distance. Alara closed her eyes and reached for the power inside her. That golden light that had saved Finn, that had destroyed the dark roots choking the children. The spelled iron suppressed it, pushed it down. But it was still there, waiting. She just had to figure out how to break through the chains before the Alphas broke her. The wagon rolled on into the gathering storm, carrying her toward a trial she had no chance of winning. Behind her, back at the fort, Darius stood watching until the wagon disappeared from sight. Then he turned to Garrett, his expression carved from stone. "Mobilize the army," he said. "All of it." "Sir? They want a tribunal? They'll get one, with 500 of my best warriors surrounding it." His eyes blazed silver. "And if that tribunal finds her guilty, if they try to execute her, I'll burn their neutral ground to ash and start a war that'll make my father's reign look peaceful." Garrett stared at him. "You'd risk everything for her?" Darius didn't hesitate. "Yes." In the wagon, miles away, Alara felt a sudden warmth in her chest. Not her power, something else, something that felt like a bond forming, fragile and new and utterly terrifying. She pressed her hand to her heart, eyes widening. "No," she whispered. "Not now. Not like this." But the bond didn't care about timing. It was happening anyway. And somewhere in the storm ahead, the collector smiled. The bond burned hotter with every mile. Alara pressed her manacled hands against her chest, trying to understand what was happening. She'd heard stories, every shifter child grew up hearing them, about the mate bond, the connection that formed between two souls, unbreakable and absolute. But she wasn't a shifter. She had no wolf. This shouldn't be possible. The warmth pulsed again, and with it came emotion that wasn't hers. Fury, determination, fear wrapped in iron control. Darius. She could feel him. "Stop it," she whispered to herself, to the bond, to whatever force was trying to tie her to a man who'd already risked too much. "I don't need this. Not now." The bond didn't listen. The wagon hit another rut, and pain shot through her shoulders. She'd been sitting in the same position for hours, wrists locked behind her back, the spelled iron leeching her strength. Her captors had stopped twice, once to water the horses, once because one of the guards needed to relieve himself. Neither time had they offered her water or food. She didn't ask, wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Through the barred window, darkness had fallen. They were making camp for the night. She could hear men setting up tents, building fires, laughter. The smell of cooking meat made her stomach cramp with hunger. The wagon door creaked open. Ronan climbed in. Of course. "Well, well." He settled onto the bench across from her, entirely too comfortable. "How the mighty have fallen. Oh wait, you were never mighty, were you? Just delusional." Alara met his eyes and said nothing. Not going to beg, he pressed. Plead for mercy? Promise to be good if I speak in your favor at the tribunal? Would it work? No, but it would be entertaining. Then I'll pass. His expression darkened. You really don't know when to quit, do you? Even now, even chained and powerless, you still act like you have some kind of leverage. I don't need leverage. I have the truth. Ronan laughed, harsh and ugly. The truth? The truth is you're a freak who never should have been born. A broken thing pretending to be whole. He leaned forward. You want to know what the real truth is, Alara? That woman at the fort, the one Darius killed, she came to me 3 months ago, offered me gold, territory, power. All I had to do was make sure you stayed isolated, keep you desperate enough that when the children came, you'd take them in. Her blood turned to ice. You worked with her. I worked with the collector. The woman was just a servant. He smiled. And it was so easy. You were already pathetic, already alone. All I had to do was make sure it stayed that way. Spread a few rumors, make sure no one offered you work. Remind everyone you were cursed. Why? Because the collector wanted you revealed, wanted you to use your power publicly so they could track you. His smile widened. And you did exactly what they predicted. You couldn't help yourself. The moment those children needed you, you gave everything away. Alara's hands clenched into fists behind her back. Where is the collector now? Watching, waiting. The tribunal is just theater, a convenient way to put you in one place, surrounded by powerful alphas who'll do their bidding without even knowing it. He stood. In 3 days, you'll be declared guilty. They'll execute you at sunset, and while you're dying, the collector will harvest every drop of power from your blood. Darius won't let that happen? Darius? Ronan's expression turned vicious. You really think he cares about you? He's using you, same as everyone else. Once you're dead, he'll move on to the next useful tool. The bond in her chest flared hot, rejecting the lie. Ronan saw something in her face, confusion, realization, and his eyes narrowed. What? Nothing. You're lying. He moved closer, studying her. What happened between you and the king? I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I can see it. His hand shot out, grabbed her chin, forced her to look at him. Did he bond you? Is that why he's acting like a rabid wolf? Alara jerked her head free. Get out! Answer the question. Go to hell, Ronan, he backhanded her. Her head snapped to the side, pain exploding across her cheekbone. Blood filled her mouth. You don't give me orders anymore, Ronan hissed. You're nothing. You're... Power erupted from Alara in a wave. Not the golden healing light. Something darker, sharper. The spelled iron on her wrists cracked. Ronan flew backward, slamming into the wagon wall hard enough to dent the wood. He slumped, gasping, eyes wide with shock. Alara stared at her hands. The manacles were fractured, barely holding. Golden light seeped through the cracks, mixed with something else. Silver threads that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, with the bond. That's not possible, Ronan wheezed. The iron should what? Stop me? Alara stood on shaking legs. You spent years telling me I was broken, powerless. Maybe you should have left well enough alone. She snapped the manacles. They shattered like glass. The moment the spelled iron fell away, her power roared back. Not just her healing gift, but something new. Something that felt like rage given form. Ronan scrambled for the door, shouting for guards. 3 men rushed in. Alara threw her hand out instinctively. Light, gold and silver braided together, lashed out like a whip. It caught the first guard across the chest and sent him flying. The second tried to grab her. She touched his arm and he collapsed, unconscious. The third hesitated. Smart, Alara said. Her voice sounded different, stronger. Walk away. He did. Ronan stared at her, real fear creeping into his expression for the first time. The collector was wrong about you, he whispered. You're not just a life weaver. You're something else. Get out of my sight. Alara, now. He fled. The moment she was alone, Alara collapsed against the wagon wall, trembling. What had she just done? That power, it hadn't felt like healing. It had felt like destruction, like Darius's power. She looked down at her hands. The silver threads were still there, woven through the gold, connecting her to something someone far away. The bond wasn't just forming, it was changing her. She heard shouting outside, orders being given. They'd be back soon, probably with stronger restraints. More guards. She had to move. Alara pushed open the wagon door and dropped to the ground. Her legs almost gave out, but she forced herself upright. The camp was in chaos. Soldiers running toward the wagon, weapons drawn. She didn't want to hurt them. Most of them were just following orders, but she couldn't let them take her again. She ran, into the forest, away from the firelight and shouting. Branches tore at her clothes, her hair. Her bare feet slipped on loose stones. Behind her, she could hear pursuit, dogs barking, men calling to each other. The bond pulled her forward, north toward Darius. She followed it. Hours blurred together, running, hiding, running again. At some point it started raining, cold and relentless. Her body screamed for rest, but she pushed through. The spelled iron might be gone, but she was still weak from healing the children, still recovering from dying twice. Dawn was breaking when she finally had to stop. She collapsed beside a stream, gulping water with shaking hands. Her feet were bleeding. Her dress was torn. She looked like a wild thing, felt like one too. The bond pulsed, stronger now, closer. "Hold on," she whispered, not sure if she was talking to Darius or herself. "Just hold on." A branch snapped behind her. Alara spun, light already gathering in her palms. Garrett stepped into view, hands raised. "Easy. I'm alone. How did you find me?" "I've been tracking you since you broke out. Not hard. You left a trail a blind man could follow." He moved closer carefully. "His Majesty is going to lose his mind when he finds out you escaped." "He sent you?" "No, I came on my own." Garrett pulled off his cloak, draped it over her shoulders. "You're freezing." The warmth was shocking. Alara pulled the cloak tight, trying to stop shivering. "I need to get to the tribunal," she said. "I have information. Ronan admitted he worked with the collector. If I can testify, they'll kill you on sight." Garrett crouched beside her. "You broke out of custody and attacked guards. That's treason on top of the witchcraft charges." "I didn't attack anyone. I defended myself." "Doesn't matter how it really happened. Matters how they'll spin it." He sighed. "Listen, I came to give you a message from Darius. He says to run. Get as far away as you can. He'll handle the tribunal, protect the children, and find a way to clear your name eventually." "No." "Alara, I said no." She stood, swaying slightly. "I'm done running, done hiding. Those alphas think they can use me as a political pawn? Fine, let them try." Her hands clenched into fists. "But I'm walking into that tribunal on my own terms, not in chains." Garrett studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, grim and approving. "You're completely insane. You know that?" "I've been told." "Good. Because you're going to need insane to pull this off." He stood, offered his hand. "Come on. We've got 2 days to get you to the capital, and you look like death warmed over." "I feel worse than I look." "That's saying something." He helped her to her feet. "My horse is about a mile west. Can you make it?" "Do I have a choice?" "Not really." They walked in silence for a while, Garrett keeping a steady pace that wouldn't exhaust her. The rain had stopped, leaving everything damp and cold. "Can I ask you something?" Alara said finally. "Go ahead." "Why are you helping me?" "You said yourself this could cost Darius everything." Garrett was quiet for several steps. 15 years ago, I was dishonorably discharged from my previous Alpha's service, accused of cowardice because I refused to participate in the slaughter of a neighboring pack's children. They were going to execute me." He touched the scar on his face. "Darius found me in a prison cell the day before my scheduled death, offered me a choice, join his army or die. Said he needed men who knew the difference between strength and cruelty. You chose him. I chose the chance to serve someone who actually gave a damn about doing the right thing, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard." He glanced at her. "You remind me of him, stubborn, reckless, too damn noble for your own good." "That doesn't sound like a compliment." "It's the highest one I've got." They found the horse exactly where Garrett said it would be. He helped her mount. She was too exhausted to be embarrassed about needing the assistance, and swung up behind her. 2 days hard riding," he said. "We'll stop when we have to, but not before. Ready?" "No, but let's go anyway." They rode. The capital city rose from the plains like a gray crown, all stone and steel, built to withstand sieges. Alara had only seen it once before, when Darius brought her to heal Finn. It had seemed imposing then. Now it felt like a fortress she'd have to conquer. Garrett guided them through back streets, avoiding the main roads where guards would be watching. They stopped at a small house on the edge of the merchant district. A woman answered the door, middle-aged, sharp-eyed, with healer's marks tattooed on her wrists. Garrett, she didn't sound surprised. I wondered when you'd show up. Mara, we need your help. The woman's eyes shifted to Alara, and something like recognition flashed across her face. Is this the girl everyone's hunting? Yes. And you brought her to my house because you're the best healer I know who doesn't ask questions. Garrett dismounted, helped Alara down. She needs medical attention, clean clothes, and somewhere to hide for 18 hours. Mara sighed. You're going to get me arrested. Probably. Fine. Get inside before someone sees you. The house was small but immaculate. Herbs hanging from the rafters, healing supplies organized on shelves, a fire burning low in the hearth. Mara gestured Alara toward a chair and began examining her feet. These are infected, she said bluntly. When's the last time you ate? Yesterday, maybe. Useless. Mara looked at Garrett. I'm going to need at least 6 hours to get her functional. Can you give me that? I'll make sure we have it. He moved toward the door. I need to report to His Majesty. Let him know she's safe. Garrett, Alara called after him. Thank you. He nodded once and was gone. Mara worked in efficient silence, cleaning wounds, applying salves, forcing Alara to drink bitter tea that tasted like mud but made the pain recede. By the time she finished, Alara was half asleep in the chair. Bed, Mara ordered. Now. Alara didn't argue. She woke to voices in the next room. Low, urgent. One was Mara's. The other... Her heart jumped. Darius. She scrambled out of bed, ignoring her protesting muscles, and opened the door. He was standing in Mara's kitchen, still in traveling clothes, looking like he'd ridden through the night. His eyes found Alara immediately, and the relief that flooded his expression was almost painful to witness. Then his gaze hardened. What were you thinking? His voice was quiet, dangerous. Breaking out? Attacking guards? Running through hostile territory alone? I was thinking I wasn't going to let them parade me in chains like some kind of trophy. Alara crossed her arms. And I didn't attack anyone. I defended myself when Ronan is claiming you tried to kill him, that your power went dark and unstable. He's lying. I know he's lying. Darius moved closer. But it doesn't matter what I know. It matters what 12 alphas will believe when they see the evidence he's manufactured. Then I'll tell them the truth. That he admitted working with the Collector, that this whole thing is a setup. Your word against his, and you're the one with forbidden power who just broke out of custody. He stopped in front of her, and she could see the exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. They're going to execute you, Alara. The trial is a formality. Then we don't give them a trial. Both Darius and Mara stared at her. What are you suggesting? Darius asked carefully. The Collector wants me, wants my power. They've been orchestrating everything, the attacks on the children, the tribunal, all of it, to get me in one place surrounded by powerful alphas they can control. Alara's mind was racing now, pieces falling into place. So we give them what they want, but on our terms. You want to use yourself as bait. I want to draw the Collector out, make them show themselves. She looked at Darius. You said you're bringing your army to the tribunal. What if we set a trap? Make it look like the execution is proceeding, but instead we're ready when they make their move. Darius's expression shifted from anger to calculation. It's risky. Everything about this is risky. If it goes wrong, then I die slightly earlier than planned. Not much difference. She smiled without humor. Besides, I'm tired of being hunted. Time to become the hunter. Mara cleared her throat. I hate to interrupt this very dramatic moment, but have you considered that the Collector might not take the bait? That they might see through the trap? They won't? Alara touched her chest where the bond hummed warm and steady. Because they don't know about this. They think I'm alone, powerless. They don't know I'm connected to the most dangerous alpha in the realm. Darius's eyes widened slightly. You can feel it too. Since the wagon. It's been getting stronger. That's not possible. You don't have a wolf. Bonds don't form with... I know what's supposed to be possible. Alara met his eyes. Apparently I don't care about following those rules either. Something hot and possessive flared in his expression. We'll discuss this later, when you're not about to walk into an execution. Looking forward to it. Mara muttered something about young people and death wishes, then retreated to give them privacy. The moment she was gone, Darius closed the distance between them. His hands came up to cup Alara's face, gentle despite the barely leashed tension in his body. I thought I'd lost you, he said quietly. When Garrett reported you'd escaped but disappeared into the forest. I can take care of myself. I know. Doesn't make it easier. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone where Ronan had hit her. The bruise had mostly faded thanks to Mara's treatment, but Darius could clearly still see it. He touched you. He's done worse before. Not anymore. The promise in his voice was absolute. After this is over, I'm going to have a conversation with Ronan. Just the two of us. Darius, this isn't negotiable. His eyes met hers, and they were full silver now. He's threatened my... He cut himself off. Your what? He swallowed hard. My mate. The word hung in the air between them. Alara's breath caught. You feel it too. Since the moment you healed Finn, I thought I was imagining it. You're not a shifter. It shouldn't be possible. But every instinct I have is screaming that you're mine. His voice roughened. And when they took you, when I had to watch them chain you and drag you away, it took everything I had not to slaughter everyone in sight. That would have been bad diplomacy. I didn't care about diplomacy. I cared about you. She leaned into his touch, letting herself have this moment. Tomorrow would bring the tribunal, the trap, the final confrontation with whoever the collector was. But right now, in this small kitchen with rain starting to fall outside, she could just be Alara. And he could just be Darius, not healer and king, just two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and somehow decided to fight for it anyway. We're going to survive this, she said. Both of us. Promise? Promise. He kissed her then, fierce and desperate and careful all at once. Like she was something precious he was afraid of breaking but couldn't help claiming anyway. When they finally pulled apart, Alara was breathless. We should probably plan the actual trap, she managed. Probably. Neither of them moved. Garrett's voice came from outside. If you two are done having a moment, we have about 6 hours to coordinate an army and set up an ambush. Just saying. Darius sighed. He has terrible timing. He has a point. That too. They spent the next hours planning. Garrett brought maps of the tribunal grounds, a large amphitheater in the center of the city, built specifically for legal proceedings. Darius explained the setup. 12 alphas would sit in judgment, with their personal guards stationed around the perimeter. The accused, Alara, would stand in the center, exposed and vulnerable. Perfect bait. I'll position sharpshooters in the surrounding buildings, Garrett said, marking locations on the map. Mage units here and here. The main force will be held in reserve, ready to move when I give the signal, Darius finished, which will be when the collector reveals themselves. And if they don't, they will. Alara studied the map. They've spent too much time, too many resources setting this up. They won't be able to resist being there for the finale. You're betting your life on that assumption, Mara pointed out. I'm betting my life on a lot of assumptions. This is just one more. The hours blurred together. Soldiers were briefed, positions assigned, contingency plans made for every scenario they could imagine. Finally, with 2 hours until dawn, Garrett looked at Alara and said, You should rest. Tomorrow is going to be brutal. I can't sleep. Try anyway. You'll need your strength. He was right, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the tribunal, saw the collector stepping from the shadows, saw everything going wrong in 1,000 different ways. Darius found her on Mara's small balcony, staring at the pre-dawn sky. Can't sleep either? He asked. Too much adrenaline. He leaned against the railing beside her. For a while they just stood in comfortable silence, watching the city wake up. I need you to know something, Darius said finally. If tomorrow goes wrong, if the collector gets past our defenses, If you're in real danger, I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect you, even if that means breaking every law, every treaty, every promise I've made. Darius, I mean it. My kingdom, my crown, my life. None of it matters if you're gone. He turned to face her. I didn't understand that until they took you, didn't realize how completely you'd become the center of everything. That's the bond talking. Maybe. But I don't think so. His hand found hers. I think I started falling for you the moment I saw you standing on that pyre, refusing to beg, refusing to break. Alara's throat tightened. I'm not some prize to be won, Darius. I'm a disaster wrapped in more disasters. People die around me. Children get hurt because of me. You saved those children, healed them when no one else could, stood up to 12 alphas to protect them. He squeezed her hand. You're not a disaster. You're a force of nature that the world wasn't ready for. That's a terrifying compliment. It's the truth. The sky was lightening now, dawn spreading pink and gold across the horizon. It's time, Garrett called from inside. Alara took a deep breath. Here we go. Together, Darius said. Together. They walked into the dawning day toward a tribunal that was designed to kill her and a trap that might save them all. Or destroy everything. Either way, Alara Thorne was done being the victim. Today, she'd become something else entirely. The amphitheater was packed. Alara had expected a crowd, but not this. Thousands of people filled the stone seats, pressing against railings, craning for a better view. Shifters from every territory, drawn by spectacle and blood sport. They wanted to see the witch burn. She walked into the arena with her head high, wearing the simple gray dress Mara had given her. No chains this time. Darius had insisted. If she was going to die, she'd die on her feet, unbound. The 12 alphas sat in a semicircle on the raised platform, faces carved from stone in judgment. She recognized most of them from reputation. Alpha Cedric of the Grey Mountains, Alpha Morgana of the coastal reaches, Alpha Thane of the Iron Hills. And there, at the far end, looking entirely too pleased with himself, Ronan. Darius stood to the side with Garrett, positioned as an observer. Their eyes met briefly, and she felt the bond pulse warm and steady. I'm here, it seemed to say. You're not alone. The gray-haired Alpha from the fort, Alpha Cedric, stood, raising his hand for silence. The crowd quieted. Alara Thorne, he intoned, you stand accused of witchcraft, corruption of minors, use of forbidden magic, and treason against the Continental Accords. How do you plead? Not guilty, Alara said clearly. On all counts. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The evidence suggests otherwise, Cedric continued. We have testimony from Alpha Ronan of the Eastern Ridge Pack that you used dark magic to manipulate children, that you consorted with malevolent forces, that when confronted you attacked him and his guards with lethal intent. Alpha Ronan is lying. That's a serious accusation. So is witchcraft. Alara turned to face Ronan directly. Tell them the truth. Tell them about the Collector, about how you were paid to isolate me, to make sure I was desperate enough to reveal my abilities when the children came. Ronan's expression remained calm, but she saw his jaw tighten. I have no idea what you're talking about. The Collector is a myth, a story you've invented to deflect from your crimes. Is it? Alara pulled a folded paper from her dress, one of the documents they'd found at the fort, carefully hidden until this moment. Then how do you explain this letter? The one detailing payments made to you by someone calling themselves the Collector? The one outlining exactly how to manipulate my circumstances? She held it up for everyone to see. Cedric's expression sharpened. Let me see that. A guard took the letter, carried it to the platform. Cedric read it, his face darkening. He passed it to the Alpha beside him. Morgana, a severe woman with ice-blue eyes. This could be fabricated, Morgana said, but there was doubt in her voice. It's not, Alara pressed. Test it. Use truth magic, blood magic, whatever you need. That letter is real, and Ronan knows it. She's stalling. Ronan stood abruptly. This is a trick. She's a manipulator. Sit down, Alpha Ronan, Cedric ordered. His tone had shifted from formal to commanding. If this letter is authentic, then we have a much larger problem than one woman's alleged crimes. Ronan sat, but fury radiated from him. Morgana gestured to a robed figure at the edge of the platform, a mage by the look of the symbols on their clothing. Verify this document's authenticity, now. The mage approached, took the letter, and began chanting in a low voice. Their hands glowed with pale blue light that spread across the paper like frost. The crowd waited in tense silence. Finally, the mage lowered their hands and turned to the alphas. The letter is genuine, written approximately 4 months ago, no signs of alteration or forgery. Chaos erupted. Alphas were shouting, the crowd roaring, Ronan on his feet denying everything. Cedric slammed his staff against the stone floor 3 times, the sound cracking like thunder. Silence! The amphitheater quieted slowly, reluctantly. Alpha Ronan, Cedric said, his voice deadly calm. You will explain this letter, immediately. I was infiltrating a criminal organization, Ronan said smoothly, trying to gather information about the collector from the inside. That letter was part of my cover. Convenient, Ilara shot back. And the payments? The gold that tripled your territory's treasury in the last 6 months? Trade agreements, perfectly legal. With whom? Various merchants? I have records. Show them. This is absurd. Ronan's composure was cracking. I'm being interrogated by a woman facing execution? She's the criminal here, not me. Then you should have no problem proving your innocence, Morgana said coldly, as she is attempting to prove hers. Before Ronan could respond, a disturbance rippled through the crowd. People were gasping, pointing toward the arena entrance. 5 children walked in, holding hands. Finn, Marcus, Theo, Emma, and Lily. Alara's heart stopped. No, they were supposed to stay. We couldn't let you face this alone, Finn called out. His voice was steady despite his fear. You fought for us. Now we fight for you. Darius looked furious but didn't intervene. He must have known trying to stop them would only make things worse. Cedric studied the children with surprise. These are the alleged victims? The corrupted minors? We weren't corrupted, Emma said, her small voice carrying in the sudden quiet. We were saved. Explain. The children looked at each other, some silent agreement passing between them. Then Finn stepped forward. My father beat me every day, he said, because I like to draw instead of fight. He said I was weak, useless, that I'd never be a real wolf. His hands clenched at his sides. When I started showing my ability, when I could move metal with my mind, he didn't see a gift. He saw a threat. I heard him planning to kill me. So I ran. To her? Cedric gestured at Ilara. To the only person who ever made me feel safe. Finn's eyes found Ilara across the arena. She fed me, taught me to read, never once hit me or told me I was broken. When I got sick, when that woman's poison was killing me, Miss Ilara gave everything to save me. She died twice to keep me alive. Marcus stepped forward next. My ability lets me feel what others feel. Every emotion, like it's my own. My stepfather hated it, said I was invading his privacy, reading his thoughts. He locked me and my brother in a cellar to teach us control. We almost starved. Miss Ilara found us, brought us home, helped us understand our gifts weren't curses. One by one, the children spoke. Emma described the violence in her pack, the claw marks she still carried. Theo talked about the visions that terrified his family, the beatings meant to drive the demons out. Lily spoke of being called a liar for seeing through deceptions, punished for truths no one wanted to hear. By the time they finished, the amphitheater was silent. These are your victims? Morgana asked quietly. These children she supposedly corrupted? She saved us, Lily said fiercely, and now you want to kill her for it. Cedric's expression was troubled. He looked at the other alphas, and Ilara could see the calculation in their faces. This wasn't the narrative they'd expected. This wasn't convenient. The children's testimony is compelling, Cedric admitted, but it doesn't address the use of forbidden magic. Power of the magnitude described is a gift, not a weapon, Ilara interrupted. I'm a healer, a life weaver. My power saves lives. That's all I've ever used it for. Life weaver. Alpha Thane, a massive man with a scarred face, leaned forward. That bloodline was supposed to be extinct, wiped out because they were too dangerous. Dangerous to whom? Ilara challenged. To the people they could heal? or to the powers that wanted control over life and death? Both, Thane said bluntly. Life weavers could heal, yes, but they could also kill with a touch. Could rewrite a person's very essence. That kind of power in one individual is exactly what the collector wants, Darius interjected, stepping forward. All eyes turned to him. This entire tribunal is a setup, a way to gather Alara, surround her with powerful alphas, and create the perfect opportunity for harvest. Harvest? Cedric frowned. The collector doesn't just want Alara dead. They want her power. And they're here, now, waiting for the moment she's most vulnerable. Murmurs erupted again. Some of the alphas looked skeptical, others worried. This is paranoid fantasy, Ronan scoffed. The king is trying to protect his... He never finished the sentence. The temperature in the amphitheater dropped 30 degrees in an instant. Frost spread across the stone floor, creeping up the walls. People's breath misted in the sudden cold. And from the shadows beneath the platform, darkness began to rise. Not natural darkness. Something alive. Hungry. It coalesced into a figure. Tall. Wrapped in robes that seemed made of shadow itself. When it spoke, the voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. How touching. The little life weaver has friends. The collector. Alara's power flared instinctively, gold light pushing back the creeping cold. Show yourself. Stop hiding like a coward. Laughter rippled through the darkness. Oh, I intend to. But first, the shadows lashed out. They moved faster than thought, wrapping around 3 of the alphas, Cedric, Morgana, and Thane. The others scrambled back, shouting orders, reaching for weapons. It was chaos. Exactly what they'd planned for. Now! Darius roared. His soldiers poured in from every entrance. Sharpshooters appeared on the surrounding rooftops. Mages lit up the amphitheater with barrier spells, cutting off escape routes. But the collector just laughed. Did you really think I didn't know about your little trap? The shadows squeezed, and the 3 captured alphas screamed. I've been 10 steps ahead since the beginning. This, the figure gestured broadly, is exactly what I wanted. The shadows began draining the alphas' power. Alara could see it, silver light being pulled from their bodies, flowing into the collector like water down a drain. Stop! She ran forward, throwing her power at the shadows. Gold light met darkness, and the impact sent shockwaves through the arena. People were thrown back. Stone cracked. The collector turned its attention to her, and for the first time she saw eyes beneath the hood. Black, empty, wrong. There you are, it purred, the last life weaver. Come to sacrifice yourself for strangers? Let them go. No. I think I'll take their power first, then yours. And with the combined strength of 12 alphas and a life weaver, I'll become something this world has never seen. The shadows tightened, the alphas' screams grew weaker. Unstoppable, eternal. Alara's mind raced. The collector was draining them too fast. She couldn't save all 3 and fight at the same time. She needed help. The bond flared hot in her chest. Without thinking, she reached through it, not just feeling Darius's presence, but pulling on it, drawing on the connection between them. Silver light erupted beside her gold. Darius appeared at her side, his eyes full silver, his wolf barely contained beneath his skin. Together, he said, together. They struck as one, gold and silver light braided together, more powerful than either alone. It hit the shadows like a battering ram, shredding through them, severing their hold on the alphas. Cedric, Morgana, and Thane collapsed, gasping. The collector shrieked, a sound that hurt to hear. You dare? It reared up, growing larger, darker. You think a half-formed bond gives you enough power to challenge me? I think you talk too much, Alara shot back. She dove forward, hands outstretched. Her power lashed out, not healing this time, but something new. Something she'd felt building since the wagon, since the bond formed. Destruction. The opposite of healing. The power to unmake. It hit the collector's core, and the figure screamed again. The robes began to shred, revealing what was underneath. Not human, not shifter. Something pieced together from dozens of different beings, a patchwork monster stitched together with dark magic and stolen power. What are you? Darius breathed. A survivor, the collector rasped. Its voice was different now, multiple voices speaking in unison. I was like you once, many of me. alphas, healers, mages. We died in the great wars, and I refused to stay dead. I gathered the pieces, made myself whole, made myself more. You made yourself an abomination, Ilara said. I made myself eternal. The shadows lashed out again, faster now, desperate. Ilara and Darius moved together, instincts sinking through the bond. Where she healed the barriers protecting the crowd, he destroyed the shadows trying to break through. Where he was too aggressive, she pulled him back. Where she hesitated, he pushed forward. They were devastating. The collector realized it too late. You can't kill me, it said, backing toward the platform. I've survived 1,000 years. Then it's time you rested, Ilara said quietly. She reached deep into her power, deeper than she'd ever gone, past the healing, past the destruction, to the core of what a life weaver could do. She could see the threads holding the collector together, dozens of them, each one a stolen life, a forcibly bound soul. She could cut them, free them. No! The collector lunged at her. Darius intercepted, his claws extending, his wolf surging forward. He caught the creature mid-leap, slammed it to the ground. Do it! Ilara placed her hands on the collector's chest and pulled. The threads came apart like rotted rope. Each one she severed released a burst of light, souls finally free after centuries of imprisonment. They rose into the air, dozens of them, bright and beautiful and finally at peace. The collector's screams turned to silence, then to nothing. When the last thread severed, the body beneath Ilara's hands turned to ash, just ash. No dramatic explosion, no final curse, just an ending. She slumped backward, exhausted. Darius caught her, pulled her against his chest. It's over, he said. It's finally over. The amphitheater was silent. Then slowly someone started clapping. It was one of the children, Finn. Then Emma joined. Then all 5 of them. The sound spread. First to Darius's soldiers, then to some of the spectators, then more. Within moments, the entire amphitheater was applauding, not for her death, for her victory. Cedric struggled to his feet, looking shaken but alive. He stared at Ilara for a long moment, then at the ash on the ground where the collector had been. I believe, he said slowly, that we owe you an apology, Miss Thorne. Us, you owe her more than that, Darius growled. Agreed. Cedric turned to the other alphas, those who'd survived. I move to dismiss all charges against Ilara Thorne. She has proven beyond doubt that she is no threat to our people. Rather, she is a protector, a hero. Seconded, Morgana said hoarsely. Thirded, Thane added. One by one, the alphas voted. Even those who'd been most vocal against her couldn't argue with what they'd just witnessed. Only Ronan remained silent, his face twisted with hatred. And as for you, Cedric said, turning to him, you will answer for your collaboration with the collector. Guards, take him into custody. You can't, Ronan started. I can and I will. Cedric's voice was iron. You betrayed your own people, sold children to a monster. The penalty for that is death. Ronan's eyes found Ilara as guards seized him. This isn't over, he hissed. You think you've won, but it's over, Ronan, Ilara interrupted. She was too tired for his theatrics. You lost. The collector is gone. The children are safe. And I'm done letting you have any power over my life. She turned her back on him. It was the greatest dismissal she could give. As guards dragged Ronan away, still protesting, the crowd began to disperse. Healers rushed to tend the injured alphas. Darius's soldiers secured the perimeter. Ilara just stood there, Darius's arm around her waist, trying to process that she was alive. Actually alive. Miss Ilara! The children rushed over, throwing themselves at her in a tangle of arms and tears and laughter. She hugged them back, sinking to her knees so she could reach them all. You're okay. You're all okay. So are you, Finn said. You did it. We did it, she corrected. All of us. Darius crouched beside them, and for a moment they were just a group of survivors, holding on to each other in the aftermath of battle. Finally, Cedric approached. Miss Thorne. A word? Ilara disentangled herself from the children, stood on shaky legs. What is it? The Continental Council would like to formally recognize your contribution. We'd like to offer you a position, chief healer of the Allied territories. You'd have resources, protection, authority to establish healing centers wherever you saw fit. It was a generous offer. It was also a way to control her. Thank you, Alara said carefully. But I have a better idea. Cedric raised an eyebrow. Oh? I want land. Enough for a sanctuary, a place where children with abilities, children who are feared or hurt or rejected by their packs, can come and be safe, where they can learn to use their gifts without being treated like weapons or freaks. She glanced at Darius, who nodded encouragingly. I want autonomy, no pack jurisdiction, and I want funding to hire teachers, healers, and guards. That's ambitious. That's necessary. Alara crossed her arms. There are more children like Finn and Marcus out there, more gifted ones being abused because their families don't understand them. I can help them, but only if I have the freedom to do it my way. Cedric considered for a long moment. Then he smiled, small but genuine. You drive a hard bargain, Miss Thorne. I've had practice. Very well. I'll bring your proposal to the council. Given what we've witnessed today, I suspect it'll pass. He extended his hand. Welcome to the political arena. Try not to upend too many more systems. No promises. They shook. 3 months later, Alara stood in front of a newly constructed building, 3 stories, solid stone, with windows that caught the morning light. Behind it stretched acres of land, some forested, some cleared for gardens and training grounds. The sanctuary. Her sanctuary. It's perfect, Emma breathed beside her. The little girl had barely left Alara's side since the tribunal. It's a start, Alara corrected, but she was smiling. The other children were already exploring, Marcus and Theo racing toward the forest, Finn examining the workshop where he could practice his metalwork, Lily investigating the library. They were home. Admiring your empire? Darius's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him leaning against the gate, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. He'd been visiting every few days, helping with construction, bringing supplies, using every excuse to see her. Not that she minded. Not an empire, a refuge. She walked over to him. What brings you by today? Can a king visit his mate without a specific reason? The word still sent a thrill through her. Mate. They hadn't formalized anything, hadn't done the traditional bonding ceremony, but the connection between them was undeniable, growing stronger every day. A king can do whatever he wants, she said, but you usually have an agenda. Caught. He pulled a scroll from his coat. The council approved your petition for 3 additional sanctuary sites, 1 in the Western Territories, 1 in the South, 1 near the coast. Alara's eyes widened. 3? I only asked for 1 more. You impressed them. Scared them a little too, I think, but mostly impressed. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. They're calling you the Lightbringer. Did you know that? That's ridiculous. Is it? You've already changed how gifted children are treated in half the territories. Pack leaders who used to punish abilities are now sending those kids to you for training. You're rewriting centuries of fear and ignorance. I'm just trying to keep them safe. You're doing more than that. His expression turned serious. You're giving them hope. Showing them their differences make them stronger, not broken. Alara looked back at the sanctuary, at the children playing without fear, and felt something settle in her chest. Purpose. There's something else, Darius said. A formal request. What kind of request? He took her hand, suddenly looking uncertain, an expression she'd never seen on him before. Move to the capital, with the children. I'll build you a sanctuary there, bigger than this one. You'll have everything you need and... He swallowed. And you'll be close. We'll be close. Darius, I know it's asking a lot. I know you've finally built something that's yours. But I can't keep doing this, seeing you once a week, then riding away. The bond is killing me. I need you near. She understood the feeling. Every time he left, it felt like part of her was being torn away. Okay, she said. He blinked. Okay? On one condition. The children get to decide. This is their home too. If they want to stay here, we stay. If they're willing to move, we move together. That's fair. They called a meeting that evening. All 5 children gathered in the main hall, looking curious and slightly worried. We're not in trouble, are we? Theo asked. No, Alara assured them. We just need to make a decision. Together. She explained the offer, the larger sanctuary in the capital, the resources, the chance to be near Darius and his support. But it means leaving here, she finished. Leaving what we've built. So I need to know what you all think. The children looked at each other, that silent communication passing between them again. Finally, Finn spoke. Will there be more kids there? More like us? Yes, Darius said. Many more. And we'd all stay together? All of us? Of course. Then I say we go. Finn looked at the others. We came to Miss Alara because she made us feel safe. It doesn't matter where that is, as long as we're together. The others nodded agreement. Emma hugged Alara's waist. Wherever you go, we go. You're our family. Alara's eyes burned with tears she didn't bother hiding. Then we go to the capital. The move took 2 weeks. By the time they arrived at the new sanctuary, a sprawling complex near the castle, with room for 100 children, word had spread. Families were already waiting. Parents who'd heard about Alara's work. Children who'd been hiding their abilities, terrified of rejection. She welcomed them all. Within a month, the sanctuary housed 43 children. Within 3 months, 78, each one gifted, each one precious. Alara worked herself to exhaustion most days, teaching, healing, mediating disputes, comforting nightmares. But it was good exhaustion, purposeful. And every night, Darius would find her. Sometimes they'd just sit together in comfortable silence. Sometimes they'd talk about the day's challenges. Sometimes they'd argue about policy or protocol. And sometimes, when the moon was bright and the children were asleep, they'd slip away to the castle gardens and just be themselves. Not the Lightbringer and the Alpha King, just Alara and Darius. 2 broken people who'd found each other and decided to build something beautiful from the wreckage. 6 months after the tribunal, Darius proposed. Not with ceremony or spectacle. Just the 2 of them in the garden, stars overhead, and a simple question. Will you stand beside me? Not as my subject or my healer, but as my equal, my partner, my mate. Alara didn't hesitate. Yes. They bonded under the full moon, surrounded by the children and what felt like half the kingdom. It was chaotic and loud and nothing like the formal ceremonies alphas usually held. It was perfect. When Darius kissed her, the bond snapped fully into place, gold and silver light blazing so bright that people gasped. The power that flowed between them was immense, undeniable, and for the first time in her life, Alara felt complete. Months turned to years. The sanctuary grew. Alara's reputation spread beyond the allied territories. Healers came from distant lands to learn from her. Children arrived from places she'd never heard of, seeking refuge and training. She welcomed them all. Some said she was too generous, too trusting, that she'd be taken advantage of. But Alara had learned something important. The world changed when people chose compassion over fear, when they protected the vulnerable instead of exploiting them. She was living proof. 5 years after the tribunal, Alara stood in the sanctuary's grand hall, now large enough to hold 300, and watched children of every age and ability practice their gifts. Marcus teaching empathy control, Finn demonstrating metalwork, Emma communicating with a falcon perched on her arm, Lily helping younger kids learn to discern truth from lies, Theo sketching prophetic visions that helped them prepare for challenges. They were thriving, all of them. Darius found her there, slipped an arm around her waist. Admiring your work? Our work, she corrected. None of this would exist without you. I just provided the resources. You provided the vision. He pressed a kiss to her temple. How are you feeling? She placed a hand on her stomach where new life was growing, still early, still secret. Terrified, she admitted. What if I can't protect them? What if... You'll be an amazing mother. He turned her to face him. You already are. Look at them. He gestured to the children, their children in every way that mattered. Besides, he added with a small smile, with your healing abilities and my overprotective instincts, this kid doesn't stand a chance of getting hurt. Alara laughed. That's not how it works. I know, but let me have my delusions. They stood together, watching the future they'd built from ashes and determination and love that refused to break. The girl they'd called a monster had become a queen, not through conquest or cruelty, but through the simple, radical act of caring when the world said not to, of protecting when it would have been easier to walk away, of proving that power used to heal was stronger than power used to harm. Alara Thorne had rewritten the rules, and in doing so, she'd changed everything. That night, as she tucked the younger children into bed and listened to their dreams and fears and hopes, she thought about the pyre she'd almost burned on, the chains she'd worn, the tribunal that was meant to end her. She thought about every person who'd called her broken, cursed, worthless. And she smiled. Because they'd been wrong about everything. She wasn't broken. She was exactly what the world needed. A force of compassion in a realm built on violence. A light in the darkness. A woman who'd stood alone and refused to fall, and in refusing, had built an army of children who would never have to stand alone again. The story of Alara Thorne, the outcast who became a queen, the monster who became a savior, would be told for generations. But that night, in a sanctuary filled with laughter and safety and unconditional love, she was just Alara. And that was more than enough.